Everyone talks about the physical side of pregnancy and the changes that your body goes through, but no one really prepares you for the emotional roller coaster of a journey that you're about to embark on. From the non-stop worry and anxiety to the deep connection that I felt with my baby, here are 10 mental and emotional changes that completely surprised me during my pregnancy journey. Let's just dive on into the mental and emotional side of pregnancy, because trust me, these changes are just as surprising, if not more surprising, than the physical changes that you experience. The first mental and emotional change that surprised me during pregnancy was the constant fear and anxiety that I felt during pregnancy. I thought that the first trimester was just about surviving the morning sickness and the fatigue, but the worry is so much worse. Was the baby okay? Was I doing enough? And honestly, it just never stopped. That was when my worry started as a mum, and it's just continued from there in different ways, in different forms. That's when you fully become a parent. You start to experience that worry of being a mum and being worried about your baby, and you are worried from the very first trimester, worrying about that tiny little baby growing inside of you, all the way through your pregnancy until your baby's born, and you're just constantly worried about them all the time. And it just took me by surprise, I guess, the absolute mental game that it is, particularly in the first trimester when you're so anxious. It's when you're most at high risk of having a miscarriage, and obviously further on in the pregnancy there are other complication risks, and you're just anxious and worried the whole time. Well, I was anyway. I definitely tried to keep myself in check about it, but it's definitely always something that you're thinking about. The next emotional and mental thing that surprised me about pregnancy was how quickly you shift into mum mode. And it's crazy. I feel like your hormones just change you, your identity is shifting, and the things that felt like they mattered to you before don't matter anymore, and everything just sort of starts to change. You start to change as a person. It's not just about you anymore. The choices that you make are affecting this little human that's growing inside of you. You just start thinking like a mum. You start thinking, how can I protect them? How can I bring them into this world safely? How can I make sure they have what they need and I can give them the best life I possibly can? And yeah, it starts there, and it, like the last thing with the fear and the worry, that mum mode just continues. It just continues to grow and get more and more intense as the pregnancy progresses and when the baby is born as well. It's just really surprising to me how quickly that shift happens, and how you can feel so much like a mama bear when your baby isn't even here yet. They're in your belly. It's just crazy to me. The next thing that surprised me was a really happy one, and that was the emotion that I felt feeling my baby girl kick for the first time, particularly because it was my first pregnancy. I'd never experienced that before, and I get emotional just thinking about it. It was such a nice moment. It was so special, and yeah, it was such a special moment. For me, I was lying in bed and I felt her kick, and Caleb was standing right next to me, and I just instantly said, Caleb, she's kicking, come and feel it, quick. And he just like put his hand on my belly and she kicked again. And so we got to experience that moment together because I just felt her kick, and then he got to feel her kick, and it was, oh my God, it was so beautiful. It was such a nice moment. And it was like the first time I felt connected to her in the way that I could feel her in my body in that way. Like the first kind of physical connection that I felt to her, of her touching me. I want to lead on from this happy moment into the next one, which is not so happy. The fifth thing that I found so bizarre about pregnancy is the unsolicited advice and comments that you get from everybody around you. Everyone seems to have an opinion. Everyone wants to kind of project their feelings of pregnancy and birth and babies onto you, and it's not a fun time, to be honest. I know like most people who've been pregnant have experienced this, something that I wasn't expecting. Even though it's talked about a lot, I don't feel like it's something I was expecting because I didn't know much about that side of pregnancy. I wanted to lead on from the baby kicking thing into this one because this is a kind of a good example of like a comment that I got that really annoyed me at the time. Like, it kind of just made me go, oh, like what sort of a comment was that? And basically I had like told a family member, oh my gosh, we felt her kick for the first time, you know, yesterday or the day before or whatever. And their immediate response was, oh, just wait till you're in your 3rd trimester and they're kicking you constantly. You're gonna just hate it and you're gonna wish they weren't kicking you. And I was like, what? Like, why would you say that? You know, like, it's just like, yes, obviously they start to kick you more and they kick you in the ribs and all the thing. Like, I literally said in my last video, in part 1 of this video, that I got nerve damage from her kicking me. And you know what? I never once wanted her to stop kicking me because that is a sign that she's healthy and growing, and I loved feeling her kick me. I absolutely loved it. There's never a time where I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Like, I never ever felt that once in my pregnancy. And just for someone to like rain on that moment, like that super special moment that I still look back on and think that's like one of the best moments of my pregnancy, to just like that be the first thing you say, it just, yeah. And all the other comments, like the just wait comments, like I think it's like good to, you know, keep things realistic. I think there's nothing wrong with giving advice if it's been asked for, or, you know, telling your experiences, but try not to put that on somebody else who's going through such a life-changing experience already. Like, I just think it's unnecessary. Not every sort of advice is right, so just take everything everyone says with a grain of salt, I think. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just the intense emotional connection I had to my baby girl when she was in my belly. The bond that you have when your baby is in your belly is just so intense. It's like there's this invisible string that is just holding you to each other, just connecting you. It felt so natural, so protective, so beautiful, such a beautiful experience. And to think that you can connect so deeply with someone you've never met, and yeah, just someone who's not even on the earth yet, technically not born into the world. The fact that you can connect so strongly just shows so much about women and how amazing our bodies and our minds are. And as crazy as hormones are, I think what they do to us during pregnancy and birth can also be wonderful, and the way they help you connect to your child during that time, I think, is really special. The next emotional feeling I had that I guess surprised me was, I guess, this feeling and this worry that being a mum wouldn't come naturally to me when she was born. Particularly because I'm an only child. I didn't grow up around a lot of babies. I didn't grow up around a lot of kids. Like, you know, just my friends and family and little siblings of my friends and my cousins and things like that. I didn't really experience growing up with like babies in the house or any of that sort of thing because I was an only child, and my husband is also an only child, so it played on my mind a little bit. I was worried that being a mum wouldn't come naturally to me because I didn't grow up in an environment with a lot of babies. But that could not have been further from the truth. When she was born, my natural mama bear instincts just kicked in, and it just felt like the most natural, wonderful, amazing thing that I'd ever done. And honestly, it's the most connected I've ever felt to this earth. It's the most connected I've ever felt to myself. Like, becoming a mum, I feel like I was becoming myself, and I still feel that to this day. Like, being a mum is the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm so grateful for it. So yeah, that was a worry I had. I didn't feel it all the time. It wasn't like this like impending doom worry that I had, but it was definitely like I had pockets of time where I would like that thought would come into my head, and I would have to kind of just be like, okay, it's a silly thought now. Like, you know, it's fine. You're going to be fine. You got this. And I did got this. So you do too. If you're worried about that, you're going to be absolutely fine. The next thing that actually really surprised me mentally during pregnancy, particularly during the 3rd trimester, was the overwhelm I felt from others and this feeling of just like wanting to retreat back into my bubble. By the time I hit that 3rd trimester, I just didn't really want to see or talk to anyone. And I think that I felt overwhelmed by other people I don't really know why. I think I just had a lot of thoughts and feelings going on already. All I was thinking about was my baby girl, and trivial things that were going on in the world just didn't seem important to me. And I just felt like I only had space for so much going on in my head at one time. And I genuinely felt like I was going through this huge transition, particularly in the third trimester. Like mentally, I just felt like everything was changing. I was really mentally preparing to become a mum, and I just had no space left in my brain for anything else. And another thing I think contributed to it as well was this is the last chunk of time where it was going to be just me and Caleb. It was, you know, that last little bit of time we had to just be together without, you know, a third little person coming into it. And I think I just wanted to cherish that time before welcoming our new family member in. And yeah, I really did sort of take a lot of time to myself during this time, and you've got to honor how you're feeling and just do what works for you. The next thing that really surprised me was the anxiety and almost like terror I felt in the last couple of weeks, like specifically like weeks 38 to 40, of the anxiety of giving birth. It just like the whole thing started to sink in that I was about to give birth to this baby that I'd been carrying for 9 months. I was not scared of labor or birth, like up until those last couple of weeks when I really started to kind of go, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. And a lot of people were starting to tell me their stories, and it just sounded terrifying, and it just made me scared. And while I was grateful to hear other people's stories, it definitely triggered me a little bit. So yeah, I was really terrified the last couple of weeks, and birth is a crazy experience, and there's nothing you can do to prepare for it really other than, you know, take some birth classes, whatever you need to do to make you feel the most prepared that you can be, but it's not something you can really fully prepare for. You don't know until you're in it what it's like. So I definitely feel like I could probably prepare for my next one a little bit easier because I know what to expect going in, and I know how my body reacts to labor and birth and what happened with my first birth. So yeah, everyone experiences it differently, so you really just have no idea what it's going to be like until you're in that moment. So it was definitely like an anxiety thing, especially like lying in bed at night. I felt so anxious for like 2 weeks about that. The next thing that surprised me was the anxiety of my baby girl being outside of my body. I think just the thought of her being outside in the world was terrifying. I know this isn't the case for everyone in every pregnancy, but I felt I had a very low complication pregnancy. Thank gosh. Very grateful for that. But I felt like she was so safe in my belly, and you know, no one could harm her because I had her in my belly and she felt very safe in there. And I guess the little bit of anxiety I had about her just being out in the world and, you know, all the things that can go wrong. I think particularly SIDS, I was so anxious about SIDS and things like that. And it was just scary knowing that we were coming to that point where she was going to be here, which was so exciting, and I couldn't wait to actually meet her in real life. But also, you know, just you're in that pregnancy bubble for 9 months. It's like a huge change when they finally come into the world, and the anxiety of that, yeah, surprised me a little bit, particularly in the last leg of my pregnancy. The final thing that surprised me about pregnancy was how third trimester prepared me to have the baby. I kept saying the whole pregnancy, I was like, I don't feel ready for her to be here. I've got so much to do, and you know, I don't feel ready yet. And by the time I got to the end of my third trimester, I was like, I am so ready. I'm ready for this baby to be here. Like, you know, obviously I still had all my anxieties, but I was like, I'm ready. It got to the point, particularly the last couple of weeks, I was like, I am so ready. I am mentally and physically drained from pregnancy, and I am just ready for her to be here. I'm ready to have her in my arms and embark on this new journey of life, because pregnancy is kind of like a transition zone. Like, you really are just sort of waiting for this next phase of life to start. And yeah, it really does prepare you, because by the end of it, I was like I said earlier in my previous video about the physical symptoms of pregnancy, I was experiencing really bad heartburn and insomnia in the last couple of weeks of pregnancy, and I was like, honestly, the sleep could not be any worse than what I'm currently getting. Like, I just want to, you know, feel like I have my body back to an extent. And obviously you go on to do breastfeeding and things like that, so you don't fully get your body back, but it definitely, like, it feels better to not be pregnant. Like, by the end of it, you're so over it and you're so ready to embark on the next journey. It kind of just feels like towards the end there, your body and your mind are kind of syncing up to like prepare you for the main event. And it's time. It's time. And it just, think because the third trimester is so physically and mentally draining on you, it just kind of forces you to be ready, you know? Pregnancy is so much more than the physical changes. The mental and emotional shifts you experience are huge. And these are things that kind of continue on with you in the postpartum life and becoming a mum. A lot of your mental experiences you experience during pregnancy continue on with you in a different way when you have the baby. I'm sure so many of you can relate to some of these things that I've talked about in this video. If any of these hit home for you, or you had any other like mental / emotional surprises during your pregnancy, please feel free to comment them below. I would love to hear other women's experiences of pregnancy. It really is such a crazy emotional time, and I am just so grateful that I've gotten to experience it. If you're only watching this video and you didn't watch part 1, I will link that below. That's all about the physical changes of pregnancy, and that's probably a really interesting thing to watch in conjunction with this video. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see the next part in this series that I'm calling Motherhood in Bloom. I think there are so many topics I could cover on this area of motherhood. There is just different surprises with every part of the journey, and I want to cover everything. So please stay tuned for that if you're interested. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys!